Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode at Center Stage, a podcast series dedicated to emerging sectors. We invite professionals, legal advisors operating in each selected industry, and all the stakeholders who need to understand the forces driving their sector to join us. From startups to big market players, we put companies at center stage and spice up the mix by having a CMS legal professional join them for a moderated discussion. We will dig deep into the specifics of a wide range of future-facing sectors. My name is Sasha Pap and I'm your host. I'm a longtime radio guy in love with technology in all shapes and forms, and I enjoy nothing more than discussing and brainstorming about how new inventions and technologies have already changed our lives throughout history and how they will continue to change them in the future. For today's brainstorming session on medical devices, two guys will join me for discussion. Matej Vengust, CEO of NerveTech, a high-tech R&D company specializing in vehicle simulation technologies in the fields of biometric and cognitive driver evaluation, deep machine learning, and data integration. A nice crossover between medical devices and autonomous vehicles. NerveTech wants to become a leader in AI-assisted medical evaluation and early diagnosis of multiple clinical states. And another guy, Robert Kordic from CMS Slovenia, an international law firm with an exceptional selection of IP and life science legal professionals who are driven by the same force as fast developing sectors: enthusiasm, curiosity, and the desire to make a meaningful change. Hello, guys, and great to have you. Matej has a background in computer science. He graduated from the School of Economics and Business at the University of Ljubljana, where he specialized in business IT. Before NerveTech, Matej worked in several successful Slovenian companies, such as D-Labs and X-Lab Kufer. He is extremely passionate about new and future high-tech technologies and is always looking to see how he can put products at the theoretical and prototype stage into practice. Matej, big thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Robert is also passionate about new technologies, but from a totally different standpoint. He's a legal professional with more than 10 years of working experience, spanning from time as head of the Industrial Property Department of the Slovenian Intellectual Property Office, where he was actively involved in the preparation and drafting of laws and EU regulations, to being a legal advisor on IP matters. And let's not forget to mention, he will soon receive his PhD in intellectual property law, competition law, and licensing. Robert, welcome.
Thank you very much, Sasha.
Okay, let's jump into today's topic, guys. Medical devices. What's hot at the moment? Can you tell us what are the design and patent trends in medical devices sector? Maybe Matej?
Sure. So, well, yeah, definitely. I mean, in these days, medical devices have grown from what usually conceived as let's say, stereotypical devices that invade human body in some way or another, to a completely new level, either in terms of radiology, like MRI, CT scanning machines, even X-rays have advanced a lot. Then we are talking a lot about, of course, nanotech, micro, let's say, robots that would be inserted in your body to do some type of evaluation, diagnosis, or even cure cancer cells. I mean, kill them to be precise. But definitely it doesn't stop here. It's not just about the integration of new machines that are in contact with your body. We're talking a lot, of course, about also artificial intelligence that helps doctors do the final, let's say or diagnosis on different states. Of course, AI helps to do that a lot faster, and of course also more precise. But human doctor is still the one who makes the call.
Robert, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I also believe that, for example, the field is a very dynamic and innovative. I mean, for example, only last year, despite the pandemic, the overall numbers at the European patent application, the overall numbers of the European patent applications are almost the same. And statistics published by the European Patent Office show that the innovative healthcare-driven patent activity is as important as it was ever before. The medical technology was the leading field in inventions in terms of volume, and together with the pharmaceutical and biotechnological sphere, they were the fastest growing areas. The medical technology accounted for the most inventions in 2020 and surpassing, for example, the digital communication industry as such. And the key aspect that it's not also a very innovative, but some also very R&D driven field. I mean, the amount and number spent on software development or basically also on the development of the AI aspects in the medical device is the leading one. I would say it's an integral part of the industry as such. I mean, still lots amount of data and information on patients is not structured. So this is one of the areas where AI can and will improve the things dramatically.
Okay, yeah, and what we have to mention is one case where AI was used to interpret images that are usually sent to radiologists. Experiments have shown that the AI outperforms experts in efficiency and accuracy by an average of more than 11%. That's big, right?
Well, yes, it is. But we still must, consider that this goes to some degree. If they are repetitive or so to say standardized scans or for standardized illnesses, then that's okay. But when it comes to some type of new form of, I don't know, I wouldn't say really mutation, but when it comes to cancer, for example, a lot of times there are some let's say signs that are not just, seen basically from the scanner, from the picture. Computer vision can help a lot. But still, we must not forget that human intuition far surpasses any computing power.
So doctors, don't be worried, right?
Yes. Definitely not, yes.
Okay.
So it goes to some degree. It is a huge tool that helps doctors. But just to let all the diagnosis to a computer at certain moment, it's definitely not possible yet.
Okay, everybody's talking about big data and artificial intelligence. So what do you think is the importance of big data and AI in the medical devices sector?
Well, when it comes to big data set, as we usually call we call it simplified, just big data, right? Well, this is let's say the food for the AI algorithms, to function on. So the more data, the more precise it gets. It's just statistics. It's simple as that. So when it comes to crunching big data and tons of terabytes of data, then obviously computer is faster here. But when it comes to, let's say, punctuality or so to say emotional intelligence, when it comes to interpreting the data, then of course humans still have to have the arm, let's say, over the decision making of a computer. But if you ask any doctors that worked before, let's say, the AI era, when it comes to computer vision and image recognition, they would tell you that they would probably not go back to the to the days when they just have to take the paper and circle what's important and then compare it to maybe some other pictures from, I don't know, some other patients. This helps a lot, surely. And of course, in some type of illnesses, when really time is of essence, we're talking maybe even months or even weeks here, that definitely, is a lifesaver and a huge aid to the doctor.
Matej, at NerveTech, you are working with a driving simulator. So maybe a question also is relevant. How far are we from, self-driving cars?
Well, from what we see now, quite far. I mean,
Okay, Elon Musk wouldn't agree.
Well, he's saying that for 7 years now. Each year he says next year you're going to have self-driving Tesla. Well, for first part, and I think my colleague here will completely support me, is legislation part. Whose fault it is? Is it governments for the regulations? Is it insurance company? I mean, who's going to pay the damage? Is it car makers? Nobody wants to have the responsibility, right? So it's still on the human, and it will be for some time, at least 10 years. Of course, there will be some separate routes where autonomous vehicles can drive, but then again, how is that different from a train? You know, if you're just on a two-dimensional straightforward route, you know, and you can't interfere with other traffic, then not much is accomplished. When it comes to self-driving, you know, or driving per se, whole body is involved. It's not just about intelligence or, you know, computing power of your brains. Of course, they play a huge role, but, you know, whole body is involved. Your hearing, your eyes, everything. We're trying to replace that with certain sensors like the LiDAR sensors, computer vision cameras, even sonars. I mean, sound based devices. But the problem here remains, you know, what you've accomplished throughout your life, not just driving, you know, from when you get your license, but your intuition and this, so to say, emotional intelligence can solve especially critical situations much faster and much more efficiently than any computer right now. So even a bad driver can resolve a critical situation in most cases, or unpredictable situations that wasn't planned by the programmers, much better than any, so to say, AI in autonomous vehicle. So, and especially when it comes to certain situations where there maybe is no markings by the road, or even, you know, tracks, I mean, the signs on the road, like lines or stuff like this, then these systems completely fail. Or maybe, for example, heavy snow, when there's no visible marks, or heavy fog, or even heavy rain. This proves difficult for even LiDAR or computer vision cameras, because if you want to have 100% computer vision oriented autonomous vehicle, then you must know that there's a huge supercomputer in your back, you know, I mean, in your trunk, processing and struggling to process these huge amounts of data, which it compares to some previous either simulated or, you know, real life experience that it's stored, but it's never that fast as human brain. So here we are still coping with these problems. And of course, you know, in perfect world, when, for example, Waymo or Tesla test their vehicles on a closed, I mean, it's not close to public, but they're, you know, pre-mapped roads, you know, up to scans up to a millimeter. It's completely different than putting these vehicles in Calcutta or New Delhi, you know. I mean, they will completely fail. And traffic culture, if you go from, let's say, San Francisco to New York down to Texas, you know, we learned that through our roadshows through US, that driving culture is completely different. And this is also the huge part why autonomous vehicle that's produced and tested in, let's say, Silicon Valley won't function well in London, for example. I mean, it just doesn't compute. Yeah.
Okay. And Robert, from the legal aspect?
Well, I believe, as Matteo already mentioned, we are still in certain aspects only at the beginning, and there are various questions which open up. For example, only in April this year, the European Union proposed an artificial intelligence regulation, which sets out structures that ban uses of certain AI and heavily regulate other high risks aspects of AI. And I believe, as Matteo already mentioned, the amount of data is the crucial aspect of that those things, because it's not only autonomous driving, it's various aspects, because data has become the essential source for economic growth, for competitiveness, for innovation, for job creation, and other social aspects. So the amount and the necessity for data sharing will become also crucial. We have just entered a new phase in this, basically the idea of a Data Governance Act, which is basically a legislative proposal establishing the data governance framework for sharing industrial data. The initiative intends to bring together the vast amount of data produced by European industrial-based companies and to basically create this effect that analytical and structural data is shared and also transferable, because most European companies and especially small medium enterprises are reluctant to share their data because they fear breaching the privacy law, confidentiality requirements, and also their own investment in this aspect.
We will come back to breaches and data protection, but is it at all possible to patent AI inventions, Robert?
Well, we have to basically consider here two aspects. AI as such is considered basically a branch of computer science, and therefore inventions involving AI are considered so-called computer implemented inventions. In this context, the European regulation and also the Slovenians show that there are certain opportunities. I mean, computer implemented inventions are treated differently by patent offices in different regions. And in the European Union, for example, an innovation or basically an invention of covering software is not possible. However, there is the possibility to patent if they have a technical character. So simplified said, you cannot patent a single program, but the program together with its hardware, then yes. Over the years, we have established a case law in this regard, but in recent times, a different question pops up, and that's the question of whether the AI as such can be the inventor. And in general, from the European perspective, you have to be a human being to cover this. But there are several currently ongoing cases in the United States and Australia and even in South Africa, where a person, Stephen Taylor, filed 2 patent applications, and he identified the inventor as Davos, an artificial intelligence system created by him. Through various loopholes, he basically provided the necessary documentation and provided the reason why Davos should be the inventor. But currently, this question is much debate, and it opens basically a follow-up question. Is our current patent system enough to cover all these aspects? Does it need modification? Or do AI-created inventions at the end need their own legal system?
Okay. What about the synergy between man and machines? So if we are talking that AI can be the inventor, this is like kind of a gray ground, right?
Correct. So the synergies now come. What do we want basically with an AI? Well, there are 3 options. First of all, I have a problem, find a solution, and the AI should verify the solution. The second option is basically, I have a problem and the AI serves as the problem solver and gives me the solution. These are currently possible. But I believe we are currently the farthest away from the aspect where the AI asks itself or creates the problem and solves it then also. We are still far away from this aspect, and the aspects of man and machine show exactly their differences, because at the end, it can only work with the data we provided and we feed it.
Yeah, new technologies are something inevitable, as it seems. But how safe are those technologies? There have been numerous cyber attacks already. So how do we prevent breach and stealing of very personal medical data, especially if we talk about medical devices?
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, first of all, there's legislation. We have GDPR here in Europe, for example. So there are certain levels and, let's say, layers of protection of what can or can't be distributed freely. This was, I guess, the first step. Then, of course, it comes to the vulnerable. How vulnerable is actual mainframe and with what you attack it? And it's usually tactics fight fire with fire, right? It's, if there's AI helping hackers, then on the other side, there's AI helping the ones who are trying to protect their data sets or whatever. But here again, it comes to to human nature, I guess. Why would somebody want to steal somebody else's data? Well, usually they're to no good, kind of blackmailing. All these attacks have certain, let's say, end costs in the end, usually money. And of course, we have also industrial espionage. I mean, there's numerous reasons why this can happen, but obviously, if a computer algorithm can attack, it can also protect. So here it's like, cop and thieves game. It's ongoing. Usually thieves are one step ahead.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah. But no, here, of course, this is, I mean, data is definitely become synonym for fortunes, for money, as we can see with crypto, as we can see with huge amounts of data that companies or in industry uses. Definitely, without that, we wouldn't know the world as we know it right now. So there is a huge value definitely in that. So this is also why the opportunity even to start thinking about stealing.
Yeah. But it's one thing if somebody steals the data about what I want to buy or my, buying history or, my health data, Robert.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's basically a huge difference, or at the end also not, because data is data. It's become a crucial commodity today, like almost gold. But as you said, the impact that the ransomware, spyware, or various other attacks are quite more devastating on certain facilities, like, for example, hospitals. In recent years, there have been several attacks on hospitals, ambulances, medical providers in Ireland, France, Germany, will then basically at hostage because their data was coded and could not be any more accessed. And it took sometimes several days, weeks, that basically the system went back to normal. And if you can imagine, in a hospital where every second sometimes means life and death, the access to the data, to the crucial data of the patient, is of utmost importance. And unfortunately, the IT systems in such public institutions have sometimes or been neglected due to various budgetary restraints, and they have stretched their services. And that means that at the end, they're the last one to receive sufficient financing and support to prepare against such attacks. Now, how we can change it as well? Yeah, as Matej said, the AI is the computer is the problem. The computer can be the solution also to this.
Okay, so we have new technologies that will help us in so many ways, but we agree we need to be careful in developing not only those, but also develop the data protection systems to avoid breach of data. But let's be honest, introduction of new technologies has never been easy and without a cost. And as the human race always find solution to tackle side effects. Well, not always perfect, but close, right? So Robert and Matej, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so yeah, of course, new technologies bring great new opportunities and well-being for us, for the humanity. So how we tackled, for example, because at NervTech, basically it seems like the core product is hardware, but it's actually not. It's the algorithms that capture and interpret the data from the patient. For example, we just got positive opinion from our National Medical Devices Association or agency that we can use our product in medicine. We just sold first simulator to one of the biggest rehabilitation centers here in let's say southeastern Europe. So it's called Socha. You probably know it. And of course, we collect a lot of data that's connected to humans' health, biometric data that shows a lot about your efficiency or deficiency. And one of the simplest way in the beginning we used how to protect the data was simply putting the data to a different location than the person's name, and it was coded. So you just got the code and the name, and this data without any information about the patient or about the subject is not worth a lot of money. I mean, especially because you need region, you need demographics, and of course you need name, for the medical institution to be able to use that. So yeah, one thing is just keeping these things apart on different servers, coded, of course, names, and this is as simple as it gets. But of course, hackers know how to work this way around this coding. So definitely there are numerous, encrypting services even available online. Then you have, advanced routers. But since those machines were programmed by a human being, then obviously human being can also, break into them. So yeah, I mean, as I said, it's never-ending story. They figure out new encryption algorithm, then hackers find new way to get around it, and this is it's going to last for some time. Quantum computers, of course, promise great encryption capabilities. They said that they will be unhackable. But since there's no, there are some use cases of operation and functionality of quantum computers. They have great advantages over, let's say, regular, so to say, binary computers. For some tasks to other tasks, for example, they're completely uncomparable. So yeah, it all depends on technology here, and how fast the progress will go.
Robert?
Yeah, when you ask the question, if it's worth it? Of course, it's worth it. From a legislative point of view, we are at the start, but probably in the right direction. And what Matej maybe failed to mention is that a product like theirs can not only help, but also save lives. Matt and I had the opportunity to test their simulator, and the information that the simulator gathers, the amount of data and for what it can be used for is almost limitless. And if you can use it also to detect various illnesses and cure persons from various diseases, then yes, the use of data becomes every day more and more important, every day more and more vital for us. And we only need to follow up with it in a proper way. So I don't see any Terminator scenario in the near future. I only see the opportunities.
Great. Matej, you want to add something?
Yeah, so yeah, there's no Skynet yet. Not like the one in the movies, at least. But yeah, as you mentioned, yeah, maybe I didn't explain enough what we are actually into with the data we gather. So the point of gathering data while the body is active, the brains, the whole body, it's very crucial actually, because when they put you into MRI machine or a CT scan machine, you're basically in some type of stasis, right? They can maybe view some movie to get reaction from you, but it's completely different if you are driving a vehicle and your practically whole body, basically whole body is involved into this operation, and subconscious comes out. So you're doing the, let's say, reactions and trying to avoid maybe hitting a kid, even in simulation on a subconscious level. It's not that you have even time to think, okay, I see a kid, then I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that. No, you do multiple things at one time. So vision, hearing, all four of your limbs are involved into that process. And from this data is much, it tells you much more about the current psychological and, let's say, physical state of a person than just lying in an MRI machine, because your body is completely active and it's under stress, and this is what we want to provoke. And then you can actually see, we use really high-end eye tracker from the pupil size or let's say pupillometry. We can predict diabetes in certain situation. For example, we can go into the details of how certain person solves certain situation for early signs of Alzheimer's or even Parkinson's disease. So there are really, as you said, limitless possibilities of what this data can mean to us, not just to us, obviously, for medicine. And we are partnered with Stanford University, for example, and head of the big data science lab said to us, guys, you just collect as much as data as you can, even if you don't know what are you collecting. Just collect it. If it's EEG data, if it's ECG, if it's even gastro sensors for kind of sensing your if you're feeling well or you're upset or something like this, then of course skin perspiration, then obviously skin temperature. I mean, everything you can just record it. There will be a day when the machine can tell you, even some things we don't want to know, but yeah, it will be able to tell you. And when it comes to early signs of diseases, this machine, which you can see in the back, is it has great potential in the future. And we developed it with help of doctors, with physicians, with with University for Psychology, for example, and of course driving instructors. And it all comes together as a whole set of new data sets we can gather and help medical industry with.
It's so great that you can see how much of big data that you gather you can then put together and find new stuff from it about the person, right? It's amazing.
And you need AI for that. You collect all this raw data. For example, OneDrive can take up to 20 gigs of data, and you would just put a person behind it. Now tell me
Excel sheet.
What's my score? What's my evaluation? What's my diagnosis? It's pretty hard work. I think 2 months wouldn't be enough for one person.
But
here it happens in 2-3 minutes. Yeah.
Matej and Robert, big thank you for your time, and big thanks to all of you watching or listening. Until next time, stay safe, drive safe, and enjoy life.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.